What is up, my football family? What a draft that was. It is time now to break into each pick for every team and issue our 2020 draft grades for each team. Before we go any further, hit that like button down below, guys. I am not going to release the next division until this video gets 1,000 likes, so hit that like down below. And before we do start, I do have one quick thing I need to address because I get dozens of comments each year from people who come in, watch the video, then proceed to inform me, this video is stupid, you have no idea how these guys will pan out, why aren't you an NFL GM if you're so smart? First off, why'd you even watch the video in the first place? Second, no, nobody knows everything, including your team's general manager. Bill O'Brien just traded the best wide receiver in football for a bag of Doritos. The Jags took a punter the pick before Russell Wilson. The Bears passed on Watson and Mahomes for Mitchell Trubisky. So let's not act like the NFL is any better at this. But that's also like going into a Super Bowl preview show and saying it's dumb to analyze the game because we have no idea who's going to win. This is sports. It's analysis. We are doing predictive thought here. Look, every year teams screw up the draft, we look back saying, what the hell was that team thinking? And more often than not, we didn't actually need hindsight to tell us that it was a bad draft. So I'm here as someone who has spent countless hours evaluating these players, studying team building philosophies, historical draft data, attending the Senior Bowl, and it is my job to tell you who I personally believe did a good or bad job with the picks that they had. And hey, by the looks of it, I wasn't so off last year. So here we go. Diving into the NFC North, again guys, 1,000 likes, we will unlock the NFC East here, but starting alphabetically, the Chicago Bears. So with their first pick in this class, no first round pick here because of the Khalil Mack trade, they ended up grabbing Cole Kmet, a tight end out of Notre Dame. To be honest, if they didn't give Jimmy Graham a big 2-year contract with mostly guaranteed money, I would have said this was a slightly better pick, but the fact is they did. Cole Kmet's a fine player. He was my number 2 tight end, but I did have a 3rd round grade on him. He doesn't really block, not a great receiver, doesn't really separate all that much, does have sure hands. Just was not a big fan of this pick. The impact of this pick with, a top 50 pick in this class was pretty underwhelming. They did, though, get Jalen Johnson, who is a top 30 player in this class. Really great fit as well, a zone corner out of Utah. Gonna come in and start right away as their number 2 corner. So they fill a need. That was a good pick. Then they had to wait till the 5th round, but I thought they did a good job here in the 5th round. They get Travis Gibson. They actually moved up to get him. Really good run defending defensive end. He's kind of a 5 tech, can come inside, rush the passer from the interior if they ask him to do that. One reason I really like this pick is it's going to allow you to let Robert Quinn relax a little bit on potential rundowns. Quinn's never been a great run defender anyway, so Travis Gibson going to be able to come in right away on day 1, play some of that defensive end, play some even outside linebacker in this 3-4 scheme. Relieve Robert Quinn, let Robert Quinn really pin his earbacks and focus on being a pass rusher. So nice value in the 5th round. Then Kindle Vilder, he is the type of athlete you want to gamble on later in the draft like this, a real man cover corner. If he can develop some zone instincts here, you could get a real steal here in Kindle Vilder. I like the shot on him. Darnell Mooney, same thinking. Smaller school guy, really good athlete, lots of room to grow, lots of room to develop. These are the kind of players I'm looking at, 5th, 6th, 7th round, high upside athletes, and I think they did a good job filling in some good spots there. And then they took a couple flyers on 2 linemen I'm going to be completely honest I'm not familiar with. I got about 100 players I evaluated on the offensive line. These 2 guys were not one of them, so I'm always down for some late round flyers on offensive line, but usually these guys don't result in anything. That's just a wait and see pick, but the process is fine with those 2 picks. Nothing wrong there. So overall, I gave this draft a B. I think they did a pretty good job here. The Cole Kmet pick was a bit of a head scratcher. They really want that tight end position apparently. I just think it was way too early for Cole Kmet, who I don't see as a true impact player. But the rest of this draft was really solid, especially when you didn't have a 1st round pick. Next up, the Detroit Lions. Really exciting draft for the Detroit Lions. You had a lot of excellent scheme fits here. So they grabbed Jeffrey Okudah at 103. I was originally going to nitpick this thing, go with like an A-, saying, they should have traded down. Jeff Okudah is the 5th player on my board. They took him at 3. Like, whatever. Jeff Okudah was their guy. He's an excellent scheme fit. He's a hell of a football player. There's no reason this pick shouldn't be an A. He fits that number 1 corner profile they're looking for, and someone that can run man coverage and be this team's Stephon Gilmore in this Matt Patricia, Belichickian defense. Then in the 2nd round, they grabbed DeAndre Swift. My number 1 running back on the board. I don't hate it. They clearly don't believe in Kerryon Johnson. To me, though, running back this early in the draft is always got to be a total luxury pick. something like the Kansas City Chiefs did, the Baltimore Ravens. Those are the kind of teams that I think should be taking running backs in the first 2 rounds. The Detroit Lions, I think there's other needs they could have gone there, so I'm going to give it a C+, though he is an excellent football player. Then Julian Okwara. This was one of my favorite picks in this entire class. The love story is complete. Romeo and Julian, who were honestly made together to play next to each other in this specific scheme. His brother Romeo is a bigger body defensive end, that gap control defensive end in this defense, and Julian Okwara is the perfect match made in heaven as the edge outside linebacker hybrid. Really good pass rusher, but extraordinary athleticism to drop into coverage, which these Belichickian outside linebackers do. Between him and Jamie Collins, they're starting to cook a little bit with that hybrid outside linebacker position. And how fun is that to have Romeo and Julian as brothers, good impacts together on that defensive line. Then they grabbed Jonah Jackson a few picks later in the 3rd round. I'm fine with this pick. I gave it a B+, a touch early, but I'm not going to knock it too much. They need a starting right guard. I think they actually got it here in Jonah Jackson. And then they take another swing at guard, Logan Stenberg. Personally, I liked Jonah Jackson. I think that was a higher floor pick. You had a Netani Muti sitting there who is a swing for the fences, potential home run pick in the 4th round. Just can't stay healthy. I'd maybe get a little more aggressive. Logan Stenberg just didn't really pass the eye test to me. He seemed like just a guy. So I do like the process. They really got to hit that right guard position. So between the 2 of these guys, they should find a starter. But I feel pretty confident that Jonah Jackson can be that guy. I would have much rather see them either go a different position or swing for someone that could be better than Jonah Jackson. Then Quintez Cephas. One of my comparisons for him, it's kind of a high comparison, is actually Marvin Jones, who I don't think will be here forever. When you get later in the draft, you do want to start thinking about the future like that. So Quintez Cephas has some of the best ball skills in this class. Excellent vertical ability. He's going to do exactly what Marvin Jones has done here. And Matthew Stafford, a great weapon for the future. And number 2, opposite of Kenny Golladay. And Stafford's one of the best deep ball placers in the league. Great fit here, Quintez Cephas in the 5th round. Then they grab a running back out of New Mexico State. He already took a running back earlier. I would have looked elsewhere. Then they grab a run-stuffing nose tackle. How often do I talk about 5th, 6th, 7th round? If you need depth and run stuffers, you can get guys like Jen Penasini out of Utah who will hold his gap and be a beast in the trenches as a 1st and 2nd down run defender. And then Jashawn Cornell, one of my guys in this class. I had a 4th round grade on this player. Did not receive a combine invite. Is a total sleeper in this class. Keep an eye on him to play that defensive end position here, a potential starter for this Detroit Lions team in year 1. I really like this player. He flies off the ball, a potential disruptor here for the Detroit Lions. Keep an eye on Jashawn Cornell. Obviously a 7th round pick, a non-combine invite. There could be something there that I'm not seeing, but I think this guy can play at the next level, at least as a situational pass rusher, something that they thought they were getting in Mike Daniels when they signed him in free agency before the season started. So an A- for the Detroit Lions. I thought they really did a good job. I like how some of these pieces on this defense are coming together. I think you built for the future a little bit on that offensive line as well. Detroit's just got to kind of get this thing to all come together, though. So we'll see if they can do it. Now it's time to talk about what was, to me, one of the worst draft classes, if not the worst draft class that I have ever evaluated since I've been doing this. The Green Bay Packers. Now, I was very excited with the Jordan Love pick, and I'm still going to stick by that A+ pick. I think the process was sound getting Jordan Love in here. My number 2 quarterback in this class, I would still be excited about the future with Jordan Love if I were a Green Bay Packers fan. I think the upside is fantastic. You also get a backup on a cheap contract to be insurance for Aaron Rodgers for as long as he is there. And you set up the potential of another 2 decades of potentially elite quarterback play. Obviously, a lot's got to go right to get there, but this is a Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers-esque situation where they can sit in and hopefully learn. So I'm fine with that pick, but what they did from that point on honestly makes me sick. For a 13-3 team who already did a miserable job addressing their true needs, lying to themselves about the wide receiver situation, the linebacker room, failing to be like any good team in this league who signs veteran depth at cornerback on a consistent basis. All these needs, a desperate problem here in Green Bay, and they did nothing to fix it. In an offseason where all they did was get worse, the only upgrade this team had this entire offseason was letting Blake Martinez go in free agency. So in the second round, you grab a backup running back, A.J. Dillon. Now, the only reason this is not an F is I actually like A.J. Dillon. I think he has a great upside. He's an explosive, big-bodied runner. Reminds me a ton of Derrick Henry. He could be great here in Green Bay, but with all of the problems on this team, with the lack of receiver play, they take a running back who is going to do virtually nothing for you in year one, as Aaron Jones is still a stud. But I kind of get it. I was even saying running back was a sneaky need for the Packers before the draft. But this third pick, to me, right now, I look as the third single worst pick in the entire draft. Josiah Deguara out of Cincinnati, a complete reach, a 5th, 6th round prospect at the core. They're even saying they're going to use him as a freaking fullback. How do you not package this pick that you literally rolled up into a ball and dropped into a trash can with the second pick to come up and get a KJ Hamler, a Laviska Shenault, someone that can actually help this offense after you took Jordan Love in the first round, a total pick for the future? So they waste that pick. Someone you could easily get in the 5th, 6th round. If you don't get Deguara specifically, there's 4 other tight ends in this class or 25 other NFL free agents that you could draft. Don't even get me started on how the Packers just ignore free agency entirely. Then you have to wait till the 5th round because you gave up the 4th pick to come up for Jordan Love. I'm fine with it if they didn't butcher rounds 2 and 3. They take Kamal Martin, who's a fine linebacker. I'm actually okay with this pick. I gave it a C because I still think wide receiver at this point had to be the pick, but they still neglect the position, failing to evaluate that they don't have good receivers outside of Devontae Adams on this roster. They have a bunch of trees that look good getting off the bus, but offer virtually nothing to you on the football field. So you take Kamal Martin. Sweet. He could actually be this team's number 2 linebacker next to Christian Kirksey because the linebacker room is such a mess. But you can't tell me that Malik Harrison or trading up for Logan Wilson wouldn't have been a better pick in the 2nd or 3rd round than literally just taking your 2nd and 3rd round picks, rolling them up into a ball and dropping them into the trash can. So you get a linebacker. Great. I don't hate that. And then they do what I tell teams to do in the 6th round. If there's linemen that you like, take them, right? You can never have enough offensive line depth. Except for you got guys like KJ Hill, James Prochet sitting there with these picks that if you actually flipped, if they took KJ Hill, an actual slot wide receiver that would start for this team, like I said, they have a bunch of trees on this roster. They need slot weapons. They need someone that can actually get open right away that isn't Devontae Adams. If you took KJ Hill, who I have a 3rd, 4th round grade on, and then just inside your mind, flip that with Josiah Deguara, who should have been the pick here at 6'13", then you're starting to look at this draft and say, okay, they salvaged it a little bit better. Nope, they take John Runyon out of Michigan. They take Jake Hansen out of Oregon. They take Simon Stepniak out of Indiana. I actually like these players, but each time they took another one, it's a what the F are you doing moment. Why do you need 3 of these guys? There's no way you have room for all these guys on the roster anyway. You have 7 or 8 guys on the roster. They already have a talented, deep offensive line. How do you not use one of those picks on a KJ Hill, a James Prochet, Isaiah Hodgins, Hunter Bryant, someone that can be a mismatch problem and get open for this offense? Ugh. And then you just take your 7th round picks and drop them in the trash can again. I don't see either Vernon Scott or Jonathan Garvin making the roster here. Maybe Vernon Scott does as a special teams. But this draft was an absolute embarrassment for the Green Bay Packers. If I were a Packers fan, I'd be disowning this team right now. I'm not even sure trading Aaron Rodgers is a bad idea at this point because clearly they don't want Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers. This draft tells me, just like Brian Gutekunst said, they just want to run the ball. They didn't help the defense either. So if you just want to run the ball and design play-action shots for Aaron Rodgers, you can't tell me Jordan Love can't just do that if you're going to tell him where to throw the ball anyway or force him to throw jump balls to a bunch of trees. If I'm Green Bay, I would just trade Aaron Rodgers. And if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I am absolutely livid. Not because of the Jordan Love pick. I think he's okay with that. It's the fact that they straight up butchered this draft, which is yet another draft in Aaron Rodgers' tenure that this team has just had a complete lack of understanding for what they need to do. So this is, I think, the worst draft I have ever evaluated. It was a complete and utter embarrassment for Brian Gutekunst, Matt LaFleur, and this Packers team. What a joke. Straight up F. Failed the test. Try again next year. Then we got the Minnesota Vikings wrapping up the NFC North. So with their 22nd pick, this was acquired for Stefon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills, and they use it to take a wide receiver, my number 4 wide receiver, a top 15, 16 player in this class. The only reason this isn't an A+ is they did actually give up Stefon Diggs for it. I do factor that in just a tiny bit, but still an A. If you can't tell by now, I like to be a little more picky with these grades so you can really tell what the A+ grades are. Then they grab Jeff Gladney after trading down. Excellent move, add more picks. Gladney is a play now corner here. Zimmer doesn't love playing rookie corners, but that's a gaping hole. Gladney has a lot of experience. He's 23 years old. He's versatile scheme-wise, can go man, can go zone, good playmaking instincts. He's physical, he tackles. This is a great first-round corner for the Vikings. Then Ezra Cleveland at the back end of the second round. I was a big fan of this pick because Ezra Cleveland to me needs a year. He needs to learn how to play more physical, put on a little more play strength as well, and it's perfect because he doesn't need to start here. Riley Reiff can play one more year there at left tackle, and then you have a really athletic duo in a outside zone running scheme where you need that athleticism and get off and ability to block on the move between Ezra Cleveland and Brian O'Neill. That's an outstanding future at offensive tackle for Kirk Cousins and whoever it might be down the road at quarterback for this team. Cameron Dantzler going to get a B+ in the third round. Lengthy press, heavy ball skills corner here. Can get turned around in man coverage. Is actually very similar to Xavier Rhodes. So you get your Xavier Rhodes replacement in the third round. Not too bad. I do like that pick. Then they grab a developmental upside pick here. I don't personally believe in DJ Wonnum, but I will say the Vikings have had a lot of success with players like this in developing these good, bigger athletes at the edge position. So I understand the pick. I'm not going to shred it for it, even though I thought it was a pretty big reach. And then they nail it in the fourth round. James Lynch out of Baylor. I had a third round grade on him. One of the most productive pass rushers in all of college football. Played a lot of edge at Baylor. Is going to need to beef up, learn how to play interior defensive line here. May not be a year one impact, but his upside's pretty incredible. That interior defensive line I thought was a big need for this team heading into the draft. And to walk out of the fourth round with James Lynch is a big W. Then Troy Dye as well. Not going to make a huge impact in year one. I do think he can really push Ben Gideon for the starting outside linebacker in base defenses. One thing that does get interesting here for me is Everson Griffin's gone. Anthony Barr is actually not a very outstanding coverage linebacker, a guy that played edge in college. The Jets tried to sign him as an edge player. I do wonder if Troy Dye impresses here, who has really good cover skills. Might they take Anthony Barr, use him a little more as an edge outside linebacker type deal, and actually put Troy Dye into that spot in nickel packages? It's some flexibility there for the Vikings that I really like. Then they grab Harrison Hand. I'm not too high on him, but I like the different skill sets they're bringing in. I think Zimmer's the kind of coach that it's not so much about are you a zone team, are you a man team, it's what kind of skill sets do I have? Where are my chess pieces? He is an excellent play caller. I think you took a well-balanced guy in Jeff Gladney. You took a press physical man, a press zone corner in Cameron Dantzler. And then Harrison Hand is a versatile dude. He can play some free safety, strong safety, slot corner, outside corner. He is going to be depth here. I don't see him ever winning a starting job, but he is still young. Maybe he develops. And then KJ Osborne, I did think this was a reach. I thought there was much better receivers on the board. I don't know if he's going to make the roster, to be honest. I just did not see a whole lot there. I could be wrong. Then you have six more picks here. Blake Brendel out of Oregon State. Value's fine. Throw a dart at guard. That's fine. They still need guys to compete at guard. Maybe could have done this a little earlier. Or even a guy like Netani Moody at some point would have been a slam dunk. But anyway, then you have Josh Metellus out of Michigan. I think at this point, that's a good spot. They have no safeties on this roster after Harris and Harrison Smith. So good depth there. I don't know if he's ever going to be a starter. Then they grab Kenny Willekes. The reason I love this pick, he is a high floor, lower upside edge player. I compare him to Sam Hubbard over there for the Cincinnati Bengals, who's been a great player for them. He's going to come in, push Odenigbo at defensive end. Those guys will compete and be your kind of starting rotational defensive ends, while potentially DJ Wonnum, who's the higher upside freak athlete guy, can develop. So I like getting that baseline in there late in this draft. He's a third, fourth round player in my mind, and he falls to the seventh. So that's a great pick. Nate Stanley, I think it was just disrespected. He's got a great arm. I don't see a huge difference between Nate Stanley and Justin Herbert. I'm going to be completely honest. Neither of them have great processors. Neither of them have super consistent accuracy. They both have excellent arms. Herbert's just a little faster, but Stanley can extend plays too. So to get him in the 7th round, he's not unlike Kirk Cousins coming out of Michigan State. So I think that's a good pick. I think if anything were to happen to Kirk, God forbid, I think that he can come in, take those deep ball shots, run the offense. He's a long, experienced starter at Iowa. I think this is a fantastic pick. If nothing else, you got a good quality backup here. But my comparison's Jacoby Brissett. I think he's got a little upside in there. Then you got Brian Cole out of Mississippi State, more safety depth. We'll see if he makes the team. Same thing can be said about Kyle Hinton, kind of a dart throw at guard. Hoping him and Brendel, you'll probably end up keeping one of those two guys, depending who's the better player. So lots of picks to analyze there for the Vikings. The final grade here is an A. I thought they nailed this draft, got a lot of great value with guys like Lynch, Dye, Willikes, Stanley, and hit their top picks. You might not have walked out of this draft with an elite franchise cornerstone player, but you filled a lot of needs, got a lot of value, some win now picks, some plan for the future picks. You can't do it a whole lot better than the Minnesota Vikings did. So they had one of the best weekends for sure. So there is the NFC North. Hit that like button. I'm going to get to work on the NFC East. When you guys get this video to 1,000 likes, I will release it. So peace out. Drop your comments down below, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace.